Greetings, I am No Talent Red Mage and I'm here with another Steaming Along. This time in the form of Enter the Gungeon. So, I'll be blunt, this is one of those love it or hate it kind of games. It's a roguelike or roguelite, depending on your definition, but at the same time it's also a bullet hell game where enemies spray copious amounts of projectiles at you and you have to navigate your way through them, or die horribly. The game is also balls to the wall hard. Not exactly Battletoads levels of hard where the game is entirely unfair, but a kind of difficulty where it can be either a cakewalk or Satan's fiery asshole depending on the RNG. If you're the kind of person that shies away from these kinds of games or isn't ready to take on the challenge, then exit out of this video now, save yourself, 5-10 minutes, and go play Hello Kitty Online Island Adventure, since that's more your speed. Filthy casual. For the rest of you that stayed on, the game works like this. You pick a starting character and you enter the gungeon floor by floor, fighting the Gundead, and yes, I said Gundead. Game is really loaded to the ears with puns and other game references. Some of them groan-worthy and others sheer genius. Each floor is randomly generated in terms of what items you get past your starting set, shop locations, if there is a shop, and which bosses you fight. There are 4 classes in the game, each has their own playstyle, which I'll explain from easiest to hardest. The Marine is really a good starting class. He has a gun that has high ammo capacity with reasonable damage and gets bonuses like more health, accuracy, reload time, better reload time, and ability to call in ammo reload once per run. He's a really good starting character to get a hang of how the game feels, for beginners. Next up you have a Hunter who gets a Corgi that randomly finds items for you on a room clear and has 2 starting weapons, a moderate damage rusty pistol and a crossbow which is more of a skill shot weapon but does ridiculous amounts of damage for a starting weapon. Next up is the spaceship captain, i.e. Discount Han Solo. He starts out with a fairly low accuracy blaster and an ability to pick locks on chests for a random chance to open them if you don't have a key. Double inventory space for special items and gets a discount in stores for his charming personality. He's actually pretty solid for lowering RNG since the discount he gets in shops is really significant, especially later on. Lastly, we have the hard mode character, the Convict. If you're heavy into high rolling risk versus reward kind of classes, then she is your go-to character. Be warned though, she is not for the faint of heart. She has less health than the other Gungeoneers. Her main starting weapon is just terrible. Her shotgun is decent damage but low range, and her Molotov is situational at the very best. Now that you're familiar with the classes, let's move on to the gameplay itself. Each dungeon is randomly generated and can either be all of 6 rooms in size or a good 40 minutes of mass genocide mode. Everything is randomly generated to an extent, with the first 2 floors being fairly moderate difficulty and then suddenly taking a massive spike around floor 3. On each floor you'll find teleporters that you can get around quickly to places you've already been, which is handy and cuts down on the backtracking a lot. You also have kind of a damage immune dodge roll that gives you invulnerability frames in the middle of the roll, but not at the start or the end. Get used to using it as there's a lot of enemies in the gungeon that like to bullet wave tactics to murder you. In terms of controls, you can use a gamepad, but keyboard and mouse are entirely adequate and is recommended as the gamepad is kind of aim assist, though folks that use twin stick shooting will have no problems with it. Most of the keys are bindable and it seems to work very well with most controllers, though some older Logitech gamepads seem to not like it too much. Not entirely unexpected since the 360 pads set the standard years ago. The game's pixel art is also really clean and beautiful, and can pretty much run on most systems at this point, provided you have a video card that has at least 512 megabytes of RAM and is equal to a 9600 GT, which you should have better, seeing as that card is literally 8 or 9 years old at this point. I've even heard folks running on lower spec machines, though your mileage may vary. The soundtrack is also nice. It sets the mood well, and little grunts and groans from killing the Gundead has that nostalgic SNES feel to it. The soundtrack is also available for purchase on Steam as well, and I really recommend it for those audiophiles out there. Even the guns are fun to use. Everything from the mundane, like a Thompson's machine gun, exotic guns like the BFG 9000 type of gun, and a completely silly nonsense like a barrel gun that shoots literal trouts at your enemies. In conclusion, I found Enter the Gungeon to be incredibly entertaining, and easily on par, if not better than most of the entries in the genre. It's difficult and sometimes frustrating romp that isn't for the faint of heart, but all the more satisfying when you run around killing enemies with a t-shirt gun for the lulz. A definite buy if you're into those kind of games. I have been No Talent Red Mage, and this has been Enter the Gungeon, available on Steam and GOG for less than the cost of a large pizza and Coke, i.e. $15. Seriously, just buy it already. It's just that good. I'll see you next time.